Hello, good evening. Today's class is, I guess, one of Shakespeare's most famous and well-known tragedies, Hamlet. You know, as the director of the program, I have heard many students that just were enthusiastic on English literature because of Hamlet. We were saying in the first classes that the emergence of Hamlet marked Shakespeare's transition from his early dramas to his mature ones. And that is the same to say theatre's transition from medieval drama to modern drama. And why was that? And that was because Hamlet has consciousness. He has introspective thoughts. He meditates, he hesitates, and he represents the pull away from the dark ignorance of the Middle Ages towards the emergence of early modern consciousness. We can say that Hamlet is the first play in which the main character thinks on stage. Another important feature is that space is the domain of bodies and matter, but consciousness has its own metaphoric spaces. And so, since Hamlet, time can be considered alone, differentiated from space. So this diegesis that we consider from Aristotle on, that is time and space, is separated in two. And Hamlet considers time as a different realm, a separated realm from space. So time and consciousness are mutually sustaining and reinforcing. Okay. Hamlet. We said that Shakespeare's theatre is considered as Seneca's theatre came to Renaissance or Baroque. And that is true in many senses. I recommended Eliot's reading Shakespeare in Elizabethan's translation because it's very important to understand that Seneca was for Greek theatre what Shakespeare is for universal literature. The very first thing that we have is that we begin to have, especially with Hamlet, many set speeches that are rhetorical speeches that represents set scenes, set moments in drama. For example, there are certain parliaments that are called genus indiciale that are the ones used in Seneca and in Shakespeare for the debate. So when genus indiciale appears, the audience knows that a debate will take place. We also have the genus deliberativum, that is, the character wonders what to do. And that in Hamlet is really present and very clear. Then we have the genus demonstrativum, that is to greet another character. So when this genus begins, you know a new character will appear onto the stage. Another of Seneca's features that are present in Hamlet and are really very much mastered by Shakespeare is the amplificatio. That is Seneca's way, and that means long soliloquies, less action. So what is Hamlet about? What is around Hamlet that really, in a way, represents Shakespeare's times and mood, this pull away from the Middle Ages? Well, Hamlet is a melancholic. So the melancholic or the malcontent is a character who is against the way of the world. And this melancholic character appears especially in revenge plays. There is a play, The Malcontent, written by John Marston, circa 1600, that may be a source to Hamlet. So we have revenge plays, and Hamlet is clearly a revenge play. And there must be, in any revenge play, we need to have an avenger. And so this avenger is disappointed by the world and feels betrayed. This is the avenger. We will see in Hamlet who is the avenger in this play and what kind, if it is, what kind of revenge play Hamlet is. So, following Seneca, the criticism in Hamlet appears in the long speeches, especially in the soliloquies. You know that Shakespeare was an agnostic, an atheist for many critics. So God in Shakespeare appears as something that is not really a place or a spirit or someone really to turn to. He speaks of gods and spirits in general, and Hamlet is the most hard play in this sense, as Shakespeare will speak about death in Hamlet, and he will consider death as the end of everything. One of Shakespeare's very important characters in his tragedies, and this is really very peculiar in Shakespeare, is the character of the fool. The fool in Shakespeare's tragedies is madness and truth, joke and sensibility. And so the fool is at the same time the clown, the mad, and the melancholic. So I was saying that the fool for Shakespeare in his tragedies resides or lies the truth. Who is the fool in Hamlet? The skull. Poor Yorick. And that is the truth for Shakespeare, the truth of what we will become. The truth is why any action is useless. We'll all end under the earth, dead. We have many sources for Hamlet. One of them is the Problemata Physica from the 13th century, where Plato's fury sums up the melancholy and the genius. The soul in Problemata Physica can be concentrated in one of these three levels each one associated with a demon. The mens, and then we have the wizards, the ratio, ratio, and then we have the thinkers, the philosophers, Hamlet, and the imaginatio, and then we have the craftsmen. Then we also have the Anatomy of Melancholy by Burton, and Burton places the causes of melancholy in one of these possibilities: God's punishment, old age, demons' intervention, wizards' intervention, passions, or food. So, Hamlet's sources are many and varied. We have the Annals of Ireland from 917 after Christ. We have the Poetic Anthology of Ireland 2030. We also have a Viking poet, Snæbjörn, from the 10th century, that tells about a prince called Hamlet, considered a madman. And we have mainly, and the most important of all, the Spanish tragedy, written by Thomas Kyd in 1589. In the Spanish tragedy, we have more or less the same story of Hamlet. Hamlet the prince. We have a chorus, one thing that we don't have in Shakespeare, but we do have the revenge of Hamlet as a very linear piece. Why am I saying this? Because Shakespeare took this story by Kyd and presented us with a very complex structured play in which we have Chinese boxes and 3 princes, each one of them an avenger, and in each case they must take revenge for their father. So we have Fortinbras at the beginning. So the main structure would be the long story is Fortinbras, that begins with his father dead and begins coming to Denmark, and then the play ends with Fortinbras arriving to Denmark. Then we have Hamlet, that has to avenge his father because of Claudius, his uncle. And then we have Laertes, that wants to avenge his father Polonius, killed by Hamlet. So we have 3 princes and these Chinese boxes. And so if we come to think, is this a revenge play? Then, first of all, is this a tragedy? Second, who is the hero? Third, is this a revenge play? I would say, well, if we come to think of parallel structures, we have Chinese boxes, 3 parallel stories of 3 princes that must take revenge. What happens? Fortinbras. He comes to avenge his father. What happens? They are already all dead. He cannot avenge anybody. They are already dead. Second, Hamlet. Does Hamlet avenge his father? He hesitates all through the play about the usefulness of killing, or better of all, the usefulness of any action. And so he doesn't kill Claudius. He delays, he postpones, he hesitates, he meditates, and postpones and postpones. And then he goes to fight, to play with Laertes and kills Claudius. But why? Because Gertrude has drunk from the cup. So he's avenging his mother. with whom he has a very special relationship, but not his father really. He kills Claudius because Claudius has killed, accidentally, but has killed Gertrude, not because of King Hamlet. And then we have Laertes, who kills Hamlet, but immediately after understands that he killed the wrong person, that he had to avenge Polonius with Claudius' death and not with Hamlet's death. So, is this a revenge play? Are Fortinbras, Hamlet and Laertes avengers really? Can a melancholic be an avenger in this case? These are very interesting questions because this is a very, very complex play. So we have also another level of analysis would be that of love. I mean, we have the love of friends, as with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, who end up killed by Hamlet, but who wanted to kill Hamlet. The level of sensual love with Ophelia, and to defend Ophelia, he kills Ophelia in the end because she commits suicide because of him. And then we have the, how could I say, Oedipical love with his mother, Gertrude. Another level of analysis that is very important is the level of the puns, language, in Hamlet. Hamlet is one of the plays that introduces this mastery use of puns. Puns are those jokes with language that are kind of misunderstanding or multiple levels of meaning of a word. As for example, my favorite one is, "Where is Polonius?" Claudius says. And Hamlet says, "At supper." At supper? Yes, but where he is eaten, not where he eats. That is a pun, and that's my favorite one in Hamlet. So language in Hamlet is very important because of this way of putting things in a way or in another that can affect the meaning. Another level of analysis that is really essential is theatre inside the theatre. This that I said about the Chinese boxes is repeated ad infinitum in Hamlet. There are many, many instances of theatre within the theatre. Not only with the mousetrap, but that is very important because it's completely explicit, where a company of actors, as it was in the past, came to play the mousetrap at Hamlet's request and are given the best class on theatre and drama that can exist by Hamlet. That is considered Shakespeare's ars poetica, his fundamentals, what he thinks about theatre. But apart from the mousetrap, and that is also a very good excuse to think about theatre as a delusion, theatre and reality, theatrum mundi. Why? Because Hamlet thinks that theatre can represent or mimic reality, and so Claudius would act out his part if he sees his own story on stage, and that is what happens. So theatrum mundi, all the world is a stage. But there are many other instances that are much more subtle all throughout the play, because whenever there is an author, an actor and an audience, we have theatre. There are many instances of play within the play in Hamlet. Whenever there is an author, an audience and an actor, we have play within the play. So, for example, when Polonius is hidden behind the tapestry and Hamlet is acting in front of Gertrude, and Gertrude is being Hamlet's audience, we have play within the play. When Polonius and Claudius create a script for Ophelia, who acts it out through the gallery, walking, and Hamlet comes and is the audience of that acting, and then we have Claudius and Polonius watching from behind the door as the audience, we have play within the play. So this is a play, a tragedy about drama, about theatre. This is Shakespeare's Ars Poetica. In this play we have two soliloquies. They are very famous and really very important in the history of literature. In Act 1, Scene 2, we have the very famous To Be or Not to Be soliloquy that speaks about decadence. All that is solid is destined to die, and action, every action, is useless. And then we have in Act 2, Scene 1, the Poor Yorick soliloquy, where we have the feature of the ubi sunt. Where are now those who? So, where are now those who lived, those who made us laugh, those who we loved? Where are they now? The answer in Hamlet is nowhere. Hamlet is a play about being dead, and that means being nowhere else. The rest is silence. So it is a play about theatre, it is a play about the circulation of stories and literature, and it's a play about death. And it's a play that teaches us that we have to do what we really want and are convinced to do. Because whatever they asked us to do and we don't want to do and we do it anyway is useless, because we'll die. And we'll die, and that means we will be nothing. Being nothing after life is the theme, the main topic in Hamlet.